Welcome back to the CRP. I'm Miguel Durati, and that's Devin Miller, the MMA team, getting together here early on Wednesday morning here. The news broke Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, that Conor McGregor's retired. And again, the cover of, CNN's news sites have a note about it, and, McGregor's big news. Most people are taking it with a little bit of a grain of salt, Devin. How do you think? What do you think of McGregor's latest announcement?
Well, this isn't the first time that he's came out with this kind of just shocking news, if you want to call it that, on Twitter, declaring that he's retired from MMA. And it is kind of strange, and I don't blame the vast majority of the public for just not even really taking this seriously. He was just on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon talking about how they're negotiating a fight with him for July. He's had Twitter altercations with everybody from Max Holloway to he's brought up Tony Ferguson before. Him and Nate Diaz are still taking jabs at each other. He mentioned fighting Donald Cerrone. I mean, so he's still been very, very vocal time and time again on post-fight, different post-fight conversations after certain people's fights. And so I don't believe this. And then you got Dana White coming out. He's all acting like he's just all in support of it. Oh, I don't blame Conor, and his whiskey's doing really good, and he's got all the money to retire, and all that might be true, but we're just gonna believe that Dana White's just ecstatic and all cool about his money cow just randomly retiring at 30 years old. I don't believe it. And even his tweet was a little bit suggestive about talking about I've decided to formally announce my retirement from the sport formerly known as mixed martial arts. I mean, I don't really know what he meant by that. Like, there's something going on with Conor in his personal life to where he's had some issues. There's been rumors of him having random women pregnant before. I've heard that rumor. I've heard rumors of him having issues with the Irish mob, and he's attacking fans and breaking their phones, and there's been rumors of him having cocaine issues, and I don't know the man personally. I don't know anything about his personal life. I can just go by hearsay, but Conor seems like a sporadic individual. I think we're going to see him fight again. I don't know what's going on with Conor. It's always just such a mess with this man.
Yeah, well, this is a consequence of the Fame and the Mayweather fight, in my opinion, because here's the situation. I'm just going to break this down in basics. We'll never be able to have exact numbers, right? But as widely reported, he made $100 million for the Conor McGregor Mayweather fight. Conor McGregor made that to do the Mayweather fight. So $100 million becomes the baseline. Now, one of the problems with managing a roster like the UFC is managing fighters and their escalation of pay and raises and things like that. Because sometimes if a guy shoots up, it's always hard to take a guy and take a step back with him in terms of pay. Nobody wants to do the same job for less money. And once you've gotten to something like $100 million, Conor clearly, at least in the media and his presentation, has the expectation that he's always going to make that. Now, that's going to be difficult. So, what did they do? His return to the UFC, that fight with Nurmagomedov, was the best McGregor is going to be able to do in the UFC. He was coming off his highest moment. He was returning to face a legitimate guy. Everybody wanted to see the fight. They got a couple million pay-per-views out of it. They could throw pay-per-view money on him. They could give him all kinds of money. They're not. So, but he didn't make $100 million for the Nurmagomedov fight. I don't think so. Maybe they managed to equal it. But will they now manage to equal it again with any one of the scope of the customers, like Ferguson and, Nick Diaz, Nate Diaz, anybody? Can they get back to roughly that? Because let's say it went something like Conor made $100 million for the Mayweather fight. Then for Nurmagomedov, with all the bells and whistles, he made about $60. Okay, that's a pay cut. I mean, $60 million is absolutely nothing to scoff at. But what if, for the next fight, that number now is 35? $35 million still makes him the highest paid UFC fighter by far, but he's going the wrong way. When he came out in negotiations, he said, are you ready to give me a piece of the company? Because I think he realizes exactly what I'm describing to you. That the UFC we can't keep doing what he's doing and keep making $100 million. So we're in a situation now where that's what's got to be agreed to. Some of the expectations on McGregor's side may be a little off, but I don't think, under the current, he signed an 8-fight deal was the word, right? So now they're negotiating for a new fight with him. Within the structure of the 8-fight deal, what was that 8-fight deal that was all about? What was the structure of that? What is he tied to? What can he go out and do off to the side? What it brings to mind is the recent move of his old training partner, Artem Lobov, and Paulie Malignaggi both of them signing on to a bare knuckle boxing organization, and that's kind of a fringe sport still. But in McGregor's head, and being an Irishman with the bare knuckle ties, all he really has to do is jump over and do one fight as a bare knuckle fighter, even if it's against Malignaggi or whatever, or someone else. But whatever it is, then maybe he kind of moves into another sport, and that could generate. I think we're going to get a circus out of McGregor, is what I'm saying, and I'm not even sure if the Malignaggi thing is any legs or anybody else is thinking the same thing, but that also happened out there, and I think that's the McGregor that we have right now, a guy who is looking to see where he makes the next, his next $100 million. If the whiskey is doing well, then that will carry him for a long time, because, once you're into that type of market, there have been stories of actors who've invested in things like that. George Clooney's made $1 billion off of a tequila company he invested in. George Clooney was actually listed as Hollywood's top earning actor one year without making a film because of his investments in the tequila company. So I think that may even be one of the models that McGregor was following, So I don't know, but I don't think that you're just going to get a normal UFC fight from him at this point, because when he's asking for a piece of the company, I think that's a showstopper. I think the guys that bought the new company didn't buy it so they could give pieces away to the help.
Yeah, I think that there's clearly some negotiation issues going on with him, and I don't think Conor's going to make 9 figures in a UFC fight. That especially with him, he just lost his last fight with Khabib. That was a big bargaining chip for him, especially if he would have won that fight, because he would have been on top of the world right now. But the Mayweather fight was really a one-off. I mean, you're not going to find that kind of a event, spectacle, very often in one's career. And Floyd Mayweather is just one of the random ones, just one of the rare ones who's had multiple events like that, namely the Pacquiao fight and the McGregor fight, and potentially another one if he were to rematch Pacquiao, which I don't think he will. But McGregor, he's got so many different possibilities of making cash. I think that he still can bring in $10 to $30 million for a UFC fight, and I think he will still do that. For example, the Diaz trilogy it's there for the taking anytime he wants it. Diaz knows it. Conor knows it. They can do that fight even if they both took 2 or 3 year layoffs. They could come back and it would sell 1 million to 2 million pay-per-view buys. They could get pay-per-view points, even $5 per pay-per-view. Gives them 5 to 10 million right there, and then on top of the $10 million purse and then sponsorships. I mean, they're gonna make some money. Plus, he's into whiskey. Plus, I think that there's a possibility we see him in pro wrestling eventually, because he would be perfect for that. And he would be perfect on the microphone. They could groom him. They could train him. He might be a little small, but compared to a lot of the majority of the pro wrestlers, but it still would be a possible good avenue with him. I also think that the UFC is going to keep him around on the roster for other different things going forward, whether it's promotional aspects of the company or whatnot. I think that you're right bringing up Bare Knuckle FC, that he could end up having another one-off with Malinaji that I think would be very lucrative, that he could make $10 to $30 million doing that too. He's got a lot of different avenues for potential money-making ventures, but I don't believe that he's throwing in the towel at 30 years old right now on his bread and butter, which is mixed martial arts, what gave him his name, and just never looking back. I mean, especially when he's just giving us so many mixed signals right now. I mean, about what he's planning on doing. We've been doing videos talking about how he's talking about coming back in July at International Fight Week. So this is really random, but I think bringing up the stakes in the company, I don't know if they shut that idea down and he's just frustrated now or what it is. But
that's probably it. In my opinion, that's the catalyst for this latest announcement in all likelihood. The fact is he's not going to make the money that he's been making for whatever his next appearance is going to be, even if it's just, 5 or 10 million off the top. He's noticing that, and that's what negotiations are about. So, the bare knuckle thing, it's an odd situation because it's still very, like I said, a fringe sport. So you could almost see a situation where it becomes Conor McGregor's bare knuckle boxing, where his name and brand kind of lift the thing, and he does one fight and leaves. But then, he's got a print on it forever. And again, there's nothing wrong with having, the resurrection of bare knuckle boxing on your fight resume in terms of, what I think McGregor's doing in terms of legacy and stuff. Very much tied to the Irish culture and things like that too. And I think, that would be a feather in his cap that I don't think we can rule out just yet. I haven't heard anything that he's heading that way either. But at the end of the day, if he starts to visualize and present himself with the idea in a big idea and a big package, like, a little bit of something like I was describing there, where maybe his name, the event is Conor McGregor's bare knuckle boxing or something like that. That, we'll see. We'll see if that's the way that goes. But that would be one possibility in my book that's out there as an option. The problem with it is he's 30, and he's going to eat up another year of his prime not fighting. And again, we talked about the Cerrone model versus some of these other guys. I mean, he's made more money than Cerrone and stuff, and, saved his body maybe some wear and tear as well. But at the end of the day, if he fought his off in a Cerrone, he'd be making a lot more money than he is now.
Yeah, that's true. And I also think it's interesting that Dana White, if Dana White is sincere in his comments about how he doesn't blame Conor McGregor and his whiskey's doing good and he has nothing to, he would retire too, and good for Conor. He's not retiring from working, he's just retiring from fighting, and he's just going to applaud him on his way out. And he has if that is sincere, then this ESPN deal, this is a topic for a whole nother video. But if Dana White is sincere, which I don't truly believe he is, I think he knows Conor's just frustrated. But if that is sincere, if he really just is so indifferent to Conor retiring, and he's just, welcoming him on, just supporting him on other ventures and doesn't care, and I would retire too. Good luck in the future, Conor. Doesn't even care. That just shows that this ESPN deal is just. They're good, man. The UFC is just on top of the world right now. They are not even stressing losing Conor McGregor to retirement because they're doing great, and that's a whole different conversation. But I don't really believe they're doing that. I mean, just they can just afford just to lose Conor McGregor right now in his prime. So there's just a lot of mixed signals here that is kind of confusing, but I'm still not going to rule out that we're going to see Conor McGregor, a fight announcement with McGregor and Diaz or McGregor and Tony or somebody for July, if they can negotiate a deal. And this might also just be Dana just calling Conor's bluff. Like Conor, he refused to give him stakes in the company. Conor's deciding to walk away, and Dana's like, all right, hey, I don't blame you. Have a good career, man. See you later. And we got you under contract, so you can't go fight anywhere else without our permission. So go do your thing.
Yeah, I think what you're recognizing there is that, Dana is behaving differently than Dana usually does in these types of circumstances. He's giving him a little more leeway. It's almost like he's a little bit tired of him. And at some point, you do have to recognize that, again, why is the request for pieces of the company a showstopper? Because at the end of the day, they've realized that, they have a few more years of McGregor. They got to move on. They got to find somebody else. They got to find somebody else. They don't want McGregor hanging around being a pain in the ass 15 years later as a part owner. You know what I mean? They are definitely looking at the fighters as the help kind of thing, and they're not going to give him any part of the company. That's not even something that they're going to fathom there. So, move on from there. The ESPN deal may be one of the reasons why they're acting a little bit nonchalant about it, because, they realize that, 10, 15 years down the line, they're going to be there and they're going to be doing fine, and, that the thing is going to be huge, and that McGregor is going to be, an asterisk in history. So, that could very well be the reason for their arrogance here. But you're right, that is a major cash cow to walk out and just say, hey, we're not going to do anything and leave that money on the table. So, we'll see how it goes. And we'll be covering it here on the CRP. I'm Miguel Dorati. He's Devin Miller. Any last thoughts, Devin? Or I think we've covered it, but you got anything for closing?
The only thing that I would say is that a lot of these conversations are just so. A lot of it just comes down to us speculating, because things just seem to change so fast. Like 1 minute we're talking, we're doing a whole video on who potentially could be fighting Conor next. And then the next thing, we're doing a video on him breaking a fan's phone, and is he going to get suspended, and what's going to happen to him legally. And the next video, we're talking about, he's going to come back in July. Now we're talking about him retiring. And this is just Conor McGregor. This happens for all sorts of different divisions and different events that are happening and different type of individuals. Things just change on the fly so fast. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to foresee what's coming up, really playing every possible scenario in our head of what this means, what's going on, analyzing what we do know, what we don't know. We can only
try to have fun with it, right?
We're having fun with it, but we can only really speculate at this moment what is going on with Conor. I think that we have speculated the best possible scenarios of what's going on, but we really don't know until more is revealed. Then that usually is the case, but especially with this guy, it's so unpredictable, man. Who knows what's going to happen next? But I think we analyzed pretty well what could possibly be the scenario of what's going on right now.
And we're looking at the announced retirement of Conor McGregor here at the CRP. I'm Miguel Dorati. That's Devin Miller. Give us a subscribe and a like.